What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Plains Perspective. Thank you so much for joining me today. Um, since last Tuesday, we have a little bit to talk about, so we're just gonna dive right into it. We're gonna go over the Auburn Nevada game, and then talk a little of Auburn football spring practice and some of the players who's been sticking out, and then we're gonna wrap it up with a little bit of baseball, and then we're gonna call it an episode and call it a day. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. So Auburn played Nevada in the quarterfinals of the NIT tournament, obviously the most prestigious post season tournament there is. Joking, obviously, but I mean it's another opportunity to get better as a team and grow as a team, and gives guys a chance to go out there and compete. And that's what we did. We ended up winning 75-69. I mean, another 40-minute game out of Elijah Freeman, didn't come out of the game once. And he has the chance to be such an elite player. I mean, with his intangibles and his length, and if once he once he realizes how good he really is when he'll take that next step. And right now, I think he's coming from the D2 level to that SEC. It's going to take a second to get your mindset to where, okay, I can be elite at this level as well. And I feel like towards the end of the season, he's kind of coming to his own in that, right? And so I'm hoping if he comes back, which I'm hoping he will, next year it'll be instant. It'll be, oh, I'm back. You know what I mean? I can score out will. I can be an elite player in this league, and I feel like if he stays and he comes back and he continues to grow, I feel like there's such a good chance of that. And like I said, he had 15 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, and he had a crazy chase down block. And that's like halfway through the game. I mean, this man hasn't came out of the game once, and he's still hustling back on defense to get blocks like that. And that's just kind of the mentality that this team needs to have to keep moving forward. And that's what he had that game. Who really stuck out this game though? It's another freshman. He's 21 years old though. Is Philip Jovic. He had 18 points and 9 rebounds and 1 assist in 28 minutes. But I feel like every single time he's on the court, he's giving 100% effort. I feel like there's never a time where he's out there and he's not giving 100%. And I was watching the game, and it was getting kind of crazy to me because I felt like he would get an offensive rebound, another offensive rebound, then get back on defense, and then the next possession he'd go down there and get a dunk. It's like you have to have that want to and will, as well as to be in shape to be able to play at that high of a level that consistently and that long. Because, I mean, 28 minutes is a long time in a game. And like I said, I mean, he had like 5 dunks, and I mean, he was scoring at will. And here's what I liked about him is he was being double teamed, and that's something Auburn kind of struggled with this year. Early in the season when Keyshawn Hall was playing really well, teams would double on Keyshawn Hall, and it seems like he would struggle to get out of double teams by overthrowing or turning the ball over or whatever. And Jovic, for the first time all season, he was getting double teamed because he was scoring at will. I feel like when those two people dropped and he got double teamed, he was still making the right play. And if you go back and watch the film, I mean, they would come in, he would get double teamed, but he would make the right play. I'm talking about backdoor cut, he'd make the right play, corner cut. And even if there was nothing, he would just get it back out. He wouldn't try to force something on a double team. He would get it back out. We would reset the offense. I think he had 1 turnover on a double team, and that's because Sway dropped the ball on a baseline cut. He got double team, Sway cut baseline, and he dropped it. But I was super, super impressed with him. That's another guy. If we can retain next year, he'll be an elite guy. And I'm hoping, it's Coach Pearl was like, I told him to score, and he just said, "Yes, coach." It's like if you have a guy like that mindset is willing to play that hard and does what's asked of him, I mean, he can be a very, very elite guy. And so I'm very high on him so far this year. I wasn't as high on him early in the season, but he's really gotten better. And that's what, you're supposed to do in college basketball. As a freshman, you're supposed to, get incrementally better throughout the season. And he's really done that. And so I'm happy with his performance. 18 points, 9 rebounds. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that from a freshman. But yeah, like I said, he plays smart when he has the ball in his hands. Here's where he struggles though, is he's 6'8", so he's not a big forward. But he fouls he like throws his hand, like he'll foul and then throw his hands up like he didn't do anything. But that's just making it more obvious that you fouled. And so like little things like that he has to get under control, and like those are controllable. Those are easy fixes. His fixes are not, attitude or anything like that. It's easy fixes like putting your hands up. You know what I mean? It's like, don't do that. That's just proving that you did it. You know what I mean? And so that was a little frustrating. But I mean, other than that, just stuff like that. And he'd foul quite a bit um, when he didn't need to. I mean, he'd be in position and there'd be 2 seconds left on the shot clock and he'd foul. And that's throughout the season. That's not really last game, but he's gotten better throughout the season for sure. And my favorite part about him is he goes to dunk the ball. It doesn't matter. And that's something that Sway kind of struggles with is he goes up and he gets blocked pretty consistently because he's not going up to pound it. I mean, Jovic is going up there to dunk. I mean, and if you're going up there, you either get fouled or you dunk the basketball. There's really no. I mean, there occasionally you can miss, and like Elijah Freeman had a crazy missed dunk earlier in the game. But I feel like when you go up aggressively like that, it's more often than not you're either going to dunk the basketball or you're going to get fouled, and sometimes you'll get an and one. I feel like he had a few and ones that they were not calling, which the officiating was not very good that game, anyways. But I regress. All right, so moving on. I mean, Sway played 24 minutes. He had 5 points and 3 rebounds. Not much to talk about with him. He didn't. I mean, he's shooting better from the free throw line. So that's good. Progressively getting better throughout the season. But it's another guy like Elijah Freeman. He can be as good as he wants to be if he understands the freedom that he has, because he can be a scorer. And I just feel like he's not taking advantage of the opportunities to score the ball. And, he's trying to be an unselfish player. But I understand that. But at the same time, you've got to understand that, on a team like this, it requires more than just to be an unselfish player. You have to be selfish sometimes. And I'm hoping next year, if he comes back, that he'll understand his role needs to be bigger than it is. And I don't think it's the coaching staff holding him back from that role. I think it's himself holding himself back from being in a bigger part of this role. And so, that's just another thing that, going into next season, this is what we're playing in this tournament. It's something good to, understand what they need to work on going forward. And, guys coming back and who's leaving, whatnot, stuff like that. Caden Magwood only played 6 minutes. Not happy with that. I feel like Blake played 5 minutes. Because if Tahad or Kevin Overton comes into the game, who needs to go in the game? Caden Magwood. Why are we putting Blake in the game in the quarterfinals of the NIT? It doesn't make sense, especially if you're going to play Caden. Might as well play him at the full extent. But, I mean, it is what it is. But, what I mean? I disagree with it, and that would not be my coaching philosophy is to do that. But because I feel like with Caden with 11 minutes, the way he shoots the ball, the way he, plays with his mentality. That's what Auburn was missing throughout this season is a guy with his mentality. We had soft guys out there not wanting to win basketball games and not willing to punch somebody in the face to win a basketball game. Who's willing to do that? Caden Mag when he sat his ass on the bench all season. It's just frustrating. But anyways, yeah, so that was the game. I mean, 75-69. We play Illinois State next week, I believe, and in the semifinals. And so, if we win the NIT, I hope to God we don't put up a banner. But if we do, I'm gonna go in there and tear it down myself. But because this is for getting better. And you want to win games, obviously, but we're for getting better. This is not something to brag about if you win. You know what I mean? It's just something to get better towards. All right. Moving on. So the next thing I was going to talk about are some of the football guys who've been sticking out through spring practice, and kind of guys Alex Gulch has been harping on quite a bit on who's been leading this team. And one guy who I feel like every interview I watch with Alex Gulch, he's bringing up is Cody Sigler. I mean, this is a hometown guy. He's from New Hope, Alabama. Played at West Alabama, I believe, West Alabama, and then transferred to Arkansas State for 1 year, and then he's on the Plains this year, but. From what I've heard is that this guy's a workhorse. He's willing to do what it takes to win games, and he's a guy who, he wasn't very highly touted out of high school or anything, but as a transfer, he was a 3-star, and that was a room that kind of needed work. And so him coming in, and a lot of people expected him to be a depth piece, but the way this coaching staff talks about him, the way other people talk about him, this is a guy who might go out there and compete for a starting job, and not even compete for it, but win it convincingly. And if that happens. That doesn't mean the guys behind him are, worse or anything like that. That just means that we have a room of competitors who, the best player is going to win. And so, that's what Coach Golish was saying is, he's very intentional about detail. Cody Ziegler is he does the little things right. And playing at he plays D lineman, so playing at his position, whenever you focus on the little things, playing such a being in the trenches, those little things start to add up, and you can just really become a monster down there. And so I'm really have high hopes for him this upcoming season. And then the other guy that I almost just said Hugh Freeze. I mean, the other guy that Alex Golesh really harps on a lot and is like being a guy who leads is Elijah Melendez. And this is a guy at a high school who was pretty highly touted. He was committed to Miami, flipped to Auburn, and he plays. He played a lot as a freshman. He won. He was 2025 SEC All Freshman team, and then he was also 2025 midseason True Freshman All American team. I mean, he played a lot last year. The thing that I concerns me a little bit about the way he plays is injuries, and you don't ever want to wish that on a guy, but that's just something that happens in football. And he was a little bit of injury prone in high school, and so I'm hoping throughout this year that he can stay healthy because this is a guy who can really help this linebacker room. Last year, he had 29 tackles, 3 tackle for losses, a sack, and 2 interceptions. And that's from a true freshman linebacker playing beside one of the best linebackers in the country, in Xavier Atkins. And with Elijah Melendez kind of having a mentor in that room like Xavier Atkins, and Xavier doesn't really lead by, I mean, he's a vocal. He leads when people need to be led. He doesn't go out of his way just because he's such a monster on the field. Um, that he doesn't. It'd be nice if he did, but he doesn't really have to. Just because people see what Xavier Atkins did last year. This is a guy come from LSU who did not play at LSU at all. Came to Auburn, and he's the first Auburn All American linebacker in 20 years. And so a guy like Elijah Melendez, he sees what Xavier Atkins does. And it's not, and Alex Gold said, leading by example is just do what you're told. I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I think whenever you're Xavier Atkins and you're an All American linebacker, you're doing more than what you're told because you don't become an All American linebacker by doing just the bare minimum of what you're told to do. You know what I mean? And so I feel like he can lead by example just because of the level of play he plays at. So if Elijah Melendez comes in and he looks at what Xavier Atkins does and looks at his work ethic and looks at what he does and the attention to details, what he does in practice, and he follows that step, then Elijah Melendez could be the next All American linebacker next year or whatnot. But I feel like that linebacker room is very deep with DeMarcus Riddick as well in there. And we have a few freshmen coming in. Jaquez Wilkes, he's a true freshman. He played linebacker out of high school, but he actually has been on the edge team or playing edge throughout this spring, and so that's kind of interesting to me. But I would like to see DeMarcus Riddick at edge, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. But you never know. It's only like 2 weeks in the spring, so it's a lot of football to be played. But yeah, I mean, Elijah Melendez really has the potential to be, especially having a mentor like Xavier Atkins in that room and going into it. I feel like he could definitely be elite. Yeah, and so those are the two guys that has stood out of spring so far with Alex Golesh's interviews and a few of the clips and whatnot. But yeah, those are the two guys, and it's funny, both of them are on defense, and I'm hoping we have an elite offense, but a lot of the guys who get hyped up, other than Byron Brown, are on the defensive side of the ball, and I would love to have another elite defense, but it would be awesome if we had an elite, or it'd be awesome to have an elite offense go with it. But those are two guys that I've been noticing play on that side of the ball who's been elite. So next we're gonna talk about the Auburn baseball taking on South Alabama. This should have been a mercy rule game, which of course it was. We ended up winning 10-0. This is a team coming up, and it's like a bounce back. And I know it's South Alabama, but still coming off a losing series to Texas and almost winning that series with a walk off. It's tough to bounce back. You have to be mentally tough, and I feel like this team is mentally tough because they came back and they beat a team that they were supposed to beat, but still, they regrouped and they became mentally tough and they won 10-0. And having Chris Rimber back is such a huge deal. I mean, he had 4 at bats, 3 hits, and 4 RBIs with a home run. I mean, this guy is elite. I mean, he's gonna be an early draft pick next year. And if he just continues to lead and be a leader on that team and continues to hit at his rate, I mean, the limit on this team, there is no limit. I mean, I think Omaha really is the minimum for this team, and I feel like they understand that, and I feel like this team is competitors and they want to win, and they understand that if they don't make it to Omaha, it doesn't this season does not count as a successful season. And a lot of teams don't really have that in baseball because I mean there's only 8 teams that go to Omaha, and so like it's a very rare occasion that this happens. But this team, I feel like they understand their role and everything. But yeah, and it went into nothing. Alvarez had he shut out for 7 innings, and this is a guy who's he's on the midseason pitch or midweek pitching staff, and I honest to God believe if they really wanted to, they could throw him in the weekend pitching staff, and he could compete at a high level. And that's without a doubt, in my opinion. But yeah, he was elite. Brandon McCrane went out there, had 4 at bats, 2 hits. He batted 500, and there's not a single guy on this who played yesterday that kind of struggled. Eric kind of struggled. He had 3 at bats and no hits. Chase Fraley kind of struggled, and Chase has been in a little bit of a slump, and so but that's good to have that South Alabama game to kind of throw in there, so you're not having a slump against a team like Georgia Tech where they go to next week, and but yeah, I mean it's a talented team, and I mean I'm excited to cover it and get over it, but. That's going to wrap us up today. Yeah, so we were just going to talk about Auburn versus Nevada, Cody Ziegler and Elijiah Melendez, and then we're going to talk a little bit of baseball. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next Tuesday. War Eagle.